Hello, Husker fans, and welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me, as always, is Danny Gillette. We're back here on this Monday morning, and we're going to talk about the fallout from Penn State, a nice recruiting win over this weekend for the Huskers, and break down everything that's going on with the Nebraska athletics. So before we get into it, please make sure that you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and get into the comments section. And Danny, how are you on this Monday morning? Again, not a victory Monday, but a fine Monday morning, I guess, anyway.
I'm good. I'm ready for some stuffing and some turkey and some cranberry sauce. So, this is still a fine Monday morning because we're 3 days away from Thanksgiving, and I'm ready to dig in and have 17 plates of food.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's 3 days away, 4 days
I
away from
know.
Black Friday, the last regular season game of the season. Like, where did the season go? We
I know.
waited all off season for it, and now we're 11 games in, and 7-4, I guess at this point. 37-10, Penn State. That was the result Saturday night. Not, we both predicted Nebraska to lose this game, so I don't think it was like incredibly shocking that they
No.
lost. However, I was surprised the way that they lost 37-10, 231 rushing yards given up, but it probably shouldn't be that that surprise. Like you mentioned, Penn State, a really talented team. I mean, they're preseason number 2. They've got a lot of those same players. They've
Really good
started
running
to
backs.
Yeah, they started to figure it out with Ethan Grunkmeyer. Only had to throw 12 passes. He had to throw 13 against Michigan State. And I said it in my preview of this game, whichever quarterback, had to do less in this game, that team was going to win. And Ethan Grunkmeyer threw 12 passes. TJ Lateef had to throw 37. That was the difference in the game right there. Their running backs dominated. Emmett Johnson had a good game, but outside of that 50-yard play, not a ton of huge explosive plays. And Nebraska just, it's just glaring. You can see what the issue is, and they're just not good enough in the trenches on either side of the ball, and it's not even close. I mean, if you look at their 4 losses this year, there's a common denominator in all of those, and it's that they can't stop the run. They've given up at least 186 rushing yards in their 4 losses, so an average of 226 yards rushing they've given up in 4 losses, and in those same 4 losses, they've surrendered 21 sacks, so 5 over. So you can't give up 226 rushing yards a game and 5 sacks and expect to win in the Big Ten. You just can't. And it's been the same. And that's why it happens against every time they play a competent opponent. So, I've already thrown in the towel for Friday. Like, I'm predicting Iowa to win this game. Like, I'm done. I'm done buying into this team against anybody with that can breathe. That's competent, because they have not. Matt Rhule has not been anybody good in his 3 years here. I mean, if you look, his best win was against 8-5 Northwestern. That Northwestern team is the only team that's had a winning record in conference play that Matt Rhule has beaten in 3 years. So, I mean, he just can't beat anybody with a pulse. And that's because they can't get it done in the trenches. And I go back to it, his first press conference, we're going to protect and affect the quarterback. Sir, you have not done that. You can't do it. And until you do it, the results are going to be the same. So, whether it's like, I know you can point to the transfer portal, but, good luck. Good luck. And I have a really hard time seeing how they're going to turn this thing around.
Yeah, especially with the offensive line, it just has seemed to have struggled all season. And granted, they've had better stretches, but it hasn't really been a complete season. I mean, when you look at the play of the offensive line to the injuries that the offensive line has taken, it's just been a mess up front. And defensively, great secondary, but horrible run defense. And you have to wonder if hiring a secondaries coach as defensive coordinator was the right move. I still believe in John Butler, but you could definitely see the differences in play between the defensive line and the corners, because the corners, for the most part, have been great. It's the defensive line that has really been the issue here. So, I'm not ready to fire anybody or anything like that, but changes definitely do need to be made.
Yeah, I don't know if John Butler's if he's going to end up being the scapegoat for this, but I did find it interesting that Matt Rhule said, like, you can't give up 37 points in this league. I think that's what he said Saturday night, that weird press conference with the bells in the background, and he was not a happy camper, which he shouldn't be. But I mean, he said that, and it's like, man, you've given up 30 points twice this year to two offenses. I mean, with a freshman quarterback basically giving up 30 points twice, going back to the Michigan game. And it was just a dominating run performance. And Bryce Underwood threw 22 times, which is, So he threw for 105 yards and he gave up 35 points. You know, Grunkmeyer threw 12 times and he gave up 37 points. Like, I don't know if that's a defensive coordinator issue. Like, I do think that they need to get away from this 3-3-5 scheme. I think that that's just, they've got to, and not that your base defense really matters, because most teams don't even play. Like, I don't even know what Michigan's base defense is, because they rarely play base defense. So like whatever the scheme it is, it doesn't matter, but they've got to get more defensive linemen, you know, out on the field, because they're playing this jack and they're trying to have him set the edge, and it's just not working. I mean, Deshaun McCullough just can't set the edge, man. He's just not big enough. And like, you see it all the time. And like, he's a good pass rusher, but like, there's a difference between being able to rush the passer and being able to hold up and like hold up against the edge. And like, they just don't do a very good job of it. And like, you know, it's so I don't know. I mean, they had the you know, recruiting. They were going to try to recruit that Schaefer kid, that 240 pounder, and he, you know, isn't visiting now. And it's like, that's the kind of guy that they need. But I think they do need to make some scheme adjustments. And I don't know, man. I think that there is a chance that John Butler might not be back next year. Like, I do think that some changes definitely need to be made, because I don't know, this just this can't continue the way that it is. And I feel like, honestly, though, it's more about, truly, I think it's more about the Billies and the Joes than the X's and the O's. You know what I mean? Like, the scheme is what it is. I mean, they've had they played 4 defensive linemen a lot against USC, and it didn't matter. You know what I mean? Because your nose tackle is 300 pounds. Like, Elijah Judy is not a nose tackle, and he's our number 1 nose tackle. You know, and like, I don't know why anybody in the staff, and they probably, you know, had their reservations and, you know, internally. And sometimes I wish that Matt Rhule would just like not be Mr. Sunshine and Rose about everything, because I just feel like it sets the wrong expectation. But like, they had to know this was going to be an issue. I mean, they had to know since spring ball. Like, you just can't go into a Big Ten season with a 300-pound man, with one 300-pounder on your defensive line, and expect to win in the Big. Like, I just don't understand that at all. Like, they should have been, you know, selling off their right foot trying to get a 325-pounder in here, and they're going to have to do that. They need two guys that are like 320 pounds. And it's like, they've needed one for you. I just don't know how they're going to get one. I don't care how much money you have. There's only so many guys out there in the portal. And like, you know, I don't know. I'm and you look at the schedule next year, and it's going to be even tougher than this year. Like, Nebraska didn't play a single team that even, I mean, I guess maybe Michigan could sneak in. So like, if they beat Ohio State, like, that would be one playoff team. But outside of that, we didn't play a single team that's in the college football playoff. And like, you know, so next year, that's not going to be the case. So they need to figure something out. And it's going to be hard to get there. And it sucks, because I feel like, you know, people want to blame this on TJ Lateef or whatever. Like, it had nothing to do with the quarterback. It didn't matter if you could have had Peyton Manning back there. You know what I mean? It would have been like, he would have been like him in the Orange Bowl, you know, when Nebraska played him, because it's just, quarterbacks cannot overcome that big of a deficit.
I already saw people blaming TJ Lateef. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, like Dylan Raiola, Lateef, like I said, Julian Sayin, anybody. You could take Nebraska could have handpicked any quarterback to play on Saturday night, and it would not have mattered, because they were so overwhelmed in the trenches that it would not have made a difference.
Oh no, it's just like the same ones that were crying about wanting TJ Lateef to start are now the same ones complaining about him after Saturday. It's like, all right, like, we all know that this isn't necessarily a quarterback problem now. Do you see it?
And he did. I mean, I'll say this. I think if Dylan had been playing, there probably would have been more sacks, because TJ did escape the pocket a few times, but he just never had a ton of time. I mean, he threw for 187 yards, which, I mean, on 37 attempts isn't great, but he had a nice throw to Dane Key early in the first half. Like, I thought he had some composure. It just really hurt when they didn't get that first drive in for a touchdown.
Yeah, it did.
Just unfortunately, for whatever reason, when this team goes I formation, and like, they just have a tough time running the ball in the red zone. And I don't know if they should have maybe done some type of play fake, or, you know, get a bootleg or something.
It's been that way the whole season, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I wrote in my preview that I predicted TJ would get a rushing touchdown, and I thought that because Nebraska had struggled so much in these, that maybe they would, you know, pop him with a play action run or something. And so I just thought that, you know, he's got so much athleticism, maybe, you know, get a little bootleg and you could get a tight end. And something that I haven't known, Luke Lindenmeyer hasn't caught a pass the last 2 games. So that's kind of interesting with the new quarterback. But yeah, it's a tough situation to be in. And some of these young offensive linemen got to step up. I've heard a lot of chatter about, you know, Raiola, and I don't know, man. Like, I do feel like he's recruited some decent guys there. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what the solution is, but it just doesn't seem like in this area of, you know, their offense and defensive, like, it seems like it's actually gotten worse, you know, since Matt Rhule got here, because They had Ty and Nash, and that kind of, they were pretty decent. Now that those guys have gone, like they need to figure it out because, like, I don't know, man. If you don't find a big time defensive tackle or two going into the next season, like you're just going to get run over constantly. And the linebackers have not been good. I mean, I definitely think that you could talk about. I would not mind a position change at linebacker coach at all. Like they're just not playing well. And I don't know. It's not saying you just have to fire everybody either. That's not necessarily going to solve anything. But because I mean, guys can coach. It's just I don't know. I don't know if they need to recruit better. It seems like there is talent, but then again, when the all Big Ten teams come out, who's making it? Emmett Johnson and Sayre Wright. That's probably it.
I'm trying to think now.
I mean, I do think Andrew Marshall's had a good season, but I don't think he's maybe he could get honorable mention.
Sean, possibly.
Who can you say that again?
Singleton.
Oh
Singleton.
yeah, possibly. And he's like maybe honorable mention. It's hard if you finish 7-5, like you're 4-5 in the conference, you're just not going to get very many guys on there. And so I don't know. Hopefully they can find a way to win. I hope they can prove me wrong on Friday. But like I've convinced myself I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid because like you look at Iowa and what do they do well? They run the football, they stop the run, they're going to outside zone the crap out of us. And I just don't know if Nebraska can hold up. I hope that they can. I do think that Iowa. One thing about Iowa is their passing game is usually so bad that we can really overplay the running game, and that helps. So they've not really had a ton of success. I mean, they had a great running game last year and we stoned them, but we also had Ty and Nash. So I don't know. I'm really curious as to what we're going to see. I hope that the guys can come up with like some just emotion that's going to help them play better, but that only carries you so far. Emotion only carries you so far in this game because after that it's like it's a down in and down out thing. So I don't know. I'm skeptical about Friday, but they found a way before. And if this team just really needs a win over Iowa, like honestly, that would be because if not, 7-5, we said it before the season. If they don't get 8 wins and they don't beat Iowa, it's going to be hard to view the season, at least not as, I don't want to say success or failure, but it's going to be hard to say like, hey, they took a big leap this year.
Well, taking Dylan out of the equation is absolutely massive. I don't care what anybody else thinks, and I'm not referring to you. You know who I'm talking about, but you lose Dylan and you lose some of your offensive line. Those are 2 huge hits.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. I mean, I do think that Dylan, losing him, they probably would have won the USC game, but at the same time, like, injuries happen. It's nobody's feeling sorry for Nebraska, just like nobody felt sorry for Penn State, and they're still finding a way to win games in November. They won more games in November than Nebraska. So it's just like, I get what you're saying. And I do think that mitigates it. Like, I don't think people are going to sit there and be like, oh, Matt Rhule needs to be fired, but it would be nice to get.
There's plenty already. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of it. I mean, anytime anybody loses any game, I mean, if Ohio State loses to Michigan this week, how many of the Ohio State fans are going to be calling? Well, I don't either. No, I don't think so either.
I would love it. I would love it. To be fair, I would love it.
But if it does, how many Ohio States are going to be calling for him to get fired? You know what I mean? And he's honestly probably, he's one of the 2 or 3 best coaches in college football. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's just, and half the fan base wanted him gone last year. He's lost like 5 career games. I mean, so it's like,
but a lot of them were to Michigan, or 2 or 3 of them were to Michigan, right?
Yeah, well, 4 of them had been to Michigan. Okay. I think he's lost 5 Big Ten games. It's not many. I think it's not many. Yeah. 5 or 6. He's lost 5 or 6 Big Ten games, but 4 of them have been to Michigan. Well, I guess because he lost to Oregon, so it might be a little bit more than that last year. But
the majority have been to Michigan. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do think Ohio State has the team to beat him. But anyway, the point being is, everybody wants to, people wanted to fire Kalen DeBoer after the Florida State game. That's kind of how this business goes. But, and I don't think, look, Matt Rhule's not getting fired, people. Like, you got to wake up to and smell the coffee. Like, this dude's going to be here for at least, probably 3-4 years, like, honestly. And that's just the way it is. His buyout's $70 million. So, like it's going to go down a little bit over the next few years, but I don't see Nebraska ponying up the money for that. And I don't think they should. Like they need to ride this out. They've made some progress. And they need to hope that these next like 3 years that Trey Taylor and company can figure it out. But like, so that honestly, like, I just think it's stupid to even say it because it's not going to happen. Like there is 0 chance Matt Rhule's getting fired this year, next year. He would have to like, I don't know. Like he would have to
1-11 over the next 2 years.
Yeah, like he would have to try to get fired.
Yeah.
Like he would have to be like actively trying to get fired. Like so, just, I mean, yeah, like we can talk about, if people want to talk about assistant coaches or whatever, like that's fine. But talking about Matt Rhule getting fired, like there's just no point in having that conversation because it ain't happening. Like
Yeah.
he's going to be here. So might as well try to figure out how to make it work. I do think, yeah, I think people are overreacting some with, for the defensive line. Like the defensive line issues are not, I'm blanking on the assistant Terry. It's not Terry Braden's fault, and I think
Yeah.
he's gotten pretty good. Like he was given. It's not like it was his choice to. He got here in February. It's not like he built the roster. They gave him the ingredients, and I think he's made a pretty good ingredients out of it. But it's not his fault that there wasn't a 330-pound nose tackle here. Like that's the thing. Like these guys know what they're doing. But a big part of their job is talent acquisition. So you know what I mean. Like I do think that Braden will figure it out on the recruiting trail. I think he'll do fine. I'm not worried about that. But
no,
the offensive line, yeah, that's a fair question. I don't know. I'm not. People questioned Donovan Raiola when he got hired, and it still hasn't been. So I don't know if you fired him because he has recruited some good players too. I mean, I think it's like we said. Maybe you get a Sam Pittman or a guy from the NFL who, can be your offensive line assistant coach, like whatever the title is. I don't care, but he can teach the guys how to play better. Let Donovan do a lot of the recruiting, because Michigan had the same exact issue because they moved in a guy last year who was a first-year coach, moved over from tight ends coach, and he kind of had some problems. And people were like, "Oh man, this offensive line sucks!" Like blah 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 blah. And they brought in Juan Castillo, who coached for the Eagles for a long time, and now they're Joe Moore Award semifinalists. So if you get a technician in here, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to even fire Donovan. You can have so many coaches now. Just get a second offensive line coach and be like, "Hey man, we're just going to get somebody to help with the technique, blah 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 blah." And if he doesn't like that, then he can go. You know what I mean? But that's what I think the best path forward is for Nebraska. I don't know. I have a hard time getting rid of Raiola when you got Claude and Puma, you got some solid guys in this class, and I do think that there's been some steps forward with the offensive line. So I don't know, but Grant Bricks and some of these young guys have to pan out, or he probably is going to have to go at some point.
Yeah, and Grant Bricks, Preston Tamua, a little bit more from Gibson Pyle. I mean, those guys look really good on paper. They really do, but now's the time that they need to show it. And quite honestly, I don't think they've been given a fair opportunity to show what they can do. But once we get some of the veterans out of the program, that should be able to help as well. And I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's why I wish. I don't understand why they've been sticking with some of these guys. I do wish that like Grant Bricks or Tamu, somebody would have got a chance to play. But anyway, let's get to the grading for this game. We'll start with the offense. So 318 yards, 131 rushing, 187 through the air, no turnovers. Not great on third down, but honestly not a terrible performance. The worst thing is they could not, kind of punch it in when they were able to move the ball. So I'm going to give them a C. I mean, I think the early red zone play was tough. Lateef ran it 10 times for 50. So he ran it 7 other times besides when he was sacked, and that I think kind of made a difference. But Ja'Cory Barney 5 catches for 55 yards. So there were a few positives. Overall, I'm going to say it was a C performance.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a C2. Just not enough. We saw flashes, just not enough there. It was good to see Barney get more involved with the offense again, because he's someone who I thought has disappeared over the past couple of games. So it was good to see him get involved. But I'll go C as well. I mean, not great, but not awful. I know there were some questions about Holgerson's play calling, and he does seem to have a script he goes with. But, I didn't really have too much of a problem with the offense on Saturday, but we'll see how things go the rest of the way.
So defensively, this one's not great. And you look at the 39 attempts for 231 rushing yards. Katron Allen 160 yards on 25 carries. Singleton 7 for 44. We talked about Grunkmeyer only having to throw it 12 times. Well, works out pretty well when you complete 11 of those. 91% completion percentage, 15 yards per pass attempt, and that's your play action, all that type of stuff. He was really efficient. And they just did a better job of surrounding him. I mean, everybody around him did their jobs better. So honestly, for this defense, I'm going to give him an F. I thought this was I thought this was the worst performance of the season in my opinion. I thought that they should have been able to. I predicted 20-17 Nebraska to lose. So I thought Penn State would be able to run the football and win this game. But the way they controlled it offensively, the way Nebraska couldn't stop the run or force an incomplete pass, just really disappointing. And I think a big indictment of defensive coordinator John Butler.
Yeah, like you said, for me too, this was one of the worst defensive performances. I thought that, Grunkmeyer could do whatever he wanted. The running backs did whatever they wanted. It didn't even look like there was a defense out there at times. So I think F is definitely a fair grade. This was a very rough performance, and quite honestly, I thought they would be a little bit better. Maybe not against the run, but the pass, I thought they would be a little bit better, and they just did not live up to it. So they get an F as well from me.
And I think part of it too, they just had to, devote so much to trying to stop the run that, that's probably what ended up hurting them there. In terms of special teams and our coaching grades, I mean, they gave up the fake punt, I guess, on special teams, which, I mean, I thought it was kind of annoying that Penn State was running that in the fourth quarter. Like, whatever. It is what it is. But nothing really too – I thought that Archie did okay punting. To me, it was just like I'll give it a C or like a B, a B.
Oh.
I'll give them a B. I didn't think there was anything terrible. They gave up the one play, but, like, special teams didn't cost them this game, I didn't think.
Yeah, I'll give them a B. I mean – the fake punt was so annoying. I agree. I was just kind of pissed off by that one, but nothing too crazy. Nothing like you said, game changing in that area. So a B is fair.
And they made each team made one field goal. Archie had 2 punts for 83. They had 2 for 92. So there's not much really happened. I mean, Nebraska only punted it 2 times. Like, they moved the ball, they just couldn't turn those yards into points, unfortunately. And sometimes that's the way it goes. And, I thought in terms of coaching, like, I thought Matt Rhule made the right decision to go for it, on the 4th and 1 or whatever. Didn't work out. Obviously the result wasn't what you wanted, but I want him to go for it. I just don't think you should kick a field goal. If you're inside the 30-yard line or inside the 40-yard line and it's 4th and 2, like, unless you have a chance to make it a 3-score lead, or like win the game, or like tie it with, like, what I mean, like, even tie, like, I think unless you have a chance to 3-score lead or to win I think you should go for it, because you just don't get tons of chances, and I think you have to take advantage. Like, I would rather sacrifice the field position than give up. So I like that he went for it. I haven't disagreed with him once, I think, this year when he's gone for it. So and I know there was people keep pointing out the personal foul or whatever on the extra point. Where they tried to Nebraska had them retry the extra point from the 30 or move it back to the 17, and a lot of fans have said, why couldn't they have taken that penalty on the kickoff? I think they could have. It was probably just a mistake by Matt Rhule's part. Like, I don't know. That's one coaching error, but would that have made the difference in the game? I doubt it. So, I'm not like, overall, I'll say that I'm going to give the coaching a C. I don't think the plan was the worst. They don't have the guys to execute the plan. It's just what I think that's the bigger issue. And so I don't think this is like a one game where, like, Penn State, like, out schemed them or something. It wasn't like, they got dominated in the X's and O's. They just, Penn State has better Billies and Joes than Nebraska right now. And that's, you look at Michigan, you look at all the teams that beat us. I mean, outside of Minnesota, like, that's the truth. That's what it is. And Nebraska has to get better. So, I guess the fact that they've got a top 5 recruiting class in 2027 will help. I mean, that's a good place to start, and that's where it needs to happen. And it's going to take some time. Like, I think we all wanted to, have this team be a playoff team. It's going to take much longer to get there. And I think Saturday night was another, reminder of that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And, I have been happy with the recruiting for future classes. And, I do think they are doing a better job of recruiting for the future. I think they sort of underestimated who would be ready, and I think that they put their eggs in the basket of the roster that they currently have instead of trying to identify more talent for the 2026 class. Again, I'm not too worried about the 2026 class, but it just goes back to, like you were saying earlier, you need some of these guys on the roster to develop in order to kind of help mitigate the smaller class.
Yeah, so we'll get into that here in this 2027 class here if we have a moment. I want to finish up with our hottest takes. So it's kind of been tough coming up with it. I know last week my hot take was about TJ Lateef. That didn't really work out per se. I do think, like I said, the game I didn't think it was really his fault on Saturday. I thought he played well. We'll see what happens on Friday against Iowa. But I do like how TJ Lateef has been playing so far, and I think it would be in the best interest of Nebraska, like I said all along, to have both of these quarterbacks next year. It's just, is that going to happen? I don't know.
I don't think we will.
It's a tough reality.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe there's a better chance after, Saturday's game. Like maybe the stock isn't quite so high. Like if he had, had the game that like Grunkmeyer did, then maybe it would be a little more difficult. Not that I'm saying I want TJ or Nebraska to lose, but if he's not like lighting the world up, then maybe there's a chance he stays. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, what's your hottest take from this loss to Penn State?
My hottest take, maybe Dana isn't the offensive magician that we thought he was. I still like him as offensive coordinator, but it's very clear that once his first set of plays doesn't work, he has trouble kind of adjusting and adding more.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I'm still trying to kind of come up with my hot take here, and I guess my hottest take is that as poorly as this season's gone, 2024 Nebraska is going to have a better record than 2025 Nebraska. That's my hottest take, and that's just like looking glum into the future. I know, but you look at the schedule next year, and it's tough. And I know you got the transfer portal and everything else, but I think we're in for some rough couple of seasons here. I think, unfortunately, we're only going to win 7 games this year, and I think it's going to be a struggle to win 7 games next year based on this roster and based on the schedule. And so I think we're going to be in for a bit of a slog, which isn't the best hot take, but that's just kind of where I'm at right now with Nebraska football.
I mean, we kind of been in a slog for the last 20 years. So, I mean, nothing really changes on that front. And quite honestly, I'm going to be very interested to see how much money is allotted, because the money here will make a huge difference. So we'll see. If they give them a lot of money, then I feel a little bit better. If they continue to penny pinch despite the promises of, getting more money for the transfer portal and helping retain players, then we'll be stuck with the same old. And at this point, I don't want a lot of our money to go to keeping players. I kind of want to bring new guys in. Like, I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of the budget on Emmett Johnson. I think he should go to the NFL anyway, because next year's schedule is not going to be easy. If TJ Lateef costs, $10 million, obviously I'm exaggerating, but if he, in theory, takes up a lot of the transfer portal budget, I don't necessarily know if I would want that either. So they're going to have to really identify what they want to spend and how much they want to spend it on each position. And I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of Pat Stewart right now.
Yeah, he's going to have to earn his paycheck, and that's a huge part of it. Talent acquisition. I mean, that's probably the most important job of any coach. And so, I guess my hot take too, or it relates to it, is that Nebraska is still, and I said this I think earlier this season, but Nebraska still has the same day one problems as when Matt Rhule walked in the door. Can't block people, can't run the ball, not physical enough to win in the Big Ten. You got to fix that. Is one transfer portal class going to do it? I don't know. So we'll see. But I just think, man, you look at the record, and we'll see what happens with like Northwestern and with the Penn State game. But if Northwestern loses this week, then this will be another season where Nebraska doesn't have a win over a team with a winning record in the Big Ten. So like at some point, and it's frustrating because we were sitting here making fun of Luke Fickell, and I sat here and said that Luke Fickell's a better coach than people are giving him credit for. I'm pretty sure I went on a whole rant about that, and he's beaten two top 25 teams, Illinois and Washington. So I don't think you can sit here and say that like Matt Rhule is a better coach than Luke Fickell. Like, honestly, what has he done to say that he's a better coach than him? I mean, like, he's beaten better teams in the Big Ten than Matt Rhule has, despite everything. Like, they played 4 quarterbacks in one game and they still beat a top 25 team. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really frustrating to sit there and watch that, have to watch them kick the crap out of Illinois, with basically like, because I mean, you talk about losing your quarterbacks. They were down to their 4th string quarterback against Washington, and they still found a way to win the game. So like, I do understand what you're saying and all that, but like, as a coach, Matt Rhule's paid hell of a lot of money to win games, and he's just not doing it enough. And I don't think that's going to change. Like, I think they'll be fine next year, but Like I am not going to sit here and say like this team next year is going to make the playoffs. I'm done drinking the Kool-Aid, and it's going to be, I'm going to have to be very disciplined, but maybe that's my hottest take, is that I'm finally done with the Kool-Aid after this game, because it's just, to me, it's just apparent that this program just does not stack up against the better teams in this conference. And after 3 years of Matt Rhule, they aren't a single step closer. They are not an inch closer to being where they need to be. And that's disappointing.
I don't know what needs to be done, because this has been proven over multiple coaching staffs. So I really don't know where you go from here to get that done.
Yeah, I don't either. And it's, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, let's talk about Amir Brown really quickly before we wrap up here. To have one bit of good news over the weekend, I know everybody's like, oh, we need offensive line recruits. We know that. Everybody knows that. It takes time, but
it's not like they're sitting here not offering them. It takes two to tango.
Yeah, exactly. They're
the
working
dumbest
on
shit
it.
I've ever heard. Like, you think they're sitting there watching these games? Oh, we don't need any defensive line. We're okay. Yeah. Oh, we're not going to try to recruit a defensive lineman. Oh, these offensive linemen will be fine heading into next year. Do you think they're watching it and saying, do you think they're just, kind of, dancing in flowers and stuff like that when they look at their offensive and defensive lines?
Yeah,
like, come on, people.
Brown out of Roseville, North Carolina, 332 overall. He's the number 26th ranked running back according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. So a really nice pickup, and that would be a blue chip running back in 2 out of the past 3 classes. So I like this one. Nebraska's class overall 4th in the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, and you got 6 commitments. And all of them are blue chips except for Matt Erickson, and he's really close. Like he's
I like Matt Erickson a lot.
Yeah, he's what I would say is a high ranking, a high rated, 3-star. So really, really good class, which I think, that's a positive thing, is as much as, some people might not want to see that. And then, Nebraska basketball, they won the Hall of Fame Classic Friday night. Really kind of a weird ending, but Sam Hoiberg with the free throw.
What a game Friday, huh?
Yeah. And then, so you have the Huskers 6-0. I know some people are talking about them being ranked this week, and maybe they'll get there, but 3 top 100 wins in 6 games. So impressive start. And
like you said earlier, this might be a team that gets their first win in March.
Yeah, they might be. They really could be. So lots of, Braden Frager, man, what a player he's turned into. 18 points over the 2 games. I think he shot like 71% from the field. And it's like, man, he's going to be right now. If you gave out the award, he'd have to be like the 6th man of the year in the Big Ten, which I know it's early, but
Price Sanford too, worth every single penny.
Rink Mass has been incredible. Jamarcus Lawrence has been great. And I love that, people just want to dog on Sam Hoiberg, and he just gets an offensive rebound and makes a free throw.
I don't know why. I love Sam Hoiberg. He does exactly what, he does his role. I don't know why people want to dog him at all. He's an excellent perimeter defender, and I don't know. I never got the Sam Hoiberg hate.
Yeah, well, I do see it from opposing fan bases, and they just don't. Just don't watch it, Yeah. So, anyways, we got your back, Sam. I tried to call him. I called him Fred in one of my posts last week. So, I changed it really quickly, but one person caught it, and she's like, "Isn't it Sam?" I was like, "Yes." I confused him.
Well, either way, both are doing well right now. So,
I feel like that's a pretty forgivable mistake, though. Yeah. Anyway, and then Nebraska volleyball, man, they swept Iowa. Iowa will probably never beat us in volleyball, which is probably how they feel about us in football right now. But anyway, so won another Big Ten championship, 18-0. They're in the NCAA tournament. The women's team is 5-0. They're playing today against Purdue, Fort Wayne, Indiana, whatever the hell that. So lots of Britt Prince had 30 in her last game. So lots outside of the football program, lots to feel good about as a Nebraska fan right now.
And even with the football program, I do think better things are coming. This year's has just been a slog in the most sense possible. It's just been a slog of a year on so many levels.
It has been, and next year is going to be. I do think they'll be like 7-5. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be dire, but I just think like it's going to be hard to make that leap next year. And it's just, we got a long way to go. We got a long way to go to get there, but I'm not giving up on the staff yet. I do think Matt Rhule can figure it out, but I think he's got to make some changes to his coaching staff, I think, this offseason.
And I do think he recognizes and will make these changes too, because it's not just one game. It's been multiple games across this entire season. So I do think, when he looks back at everything, he'll make the changes needed.
And if you look at, the impact like Mike Eckler had on special teams, if we could hire
a new defensive coordinator, or bring in a different line coach. If we could have some impact hires like that, maybe they could have a better record next year. It's not impossible, but it's going to be a long road to hoe for Nebraska football. That's what I took away from this game. Is we still got a long, it's like that poem, a long way to go before we sleep. Got a long way to go before we're relevant in the Big Ten, but at least trending up. And sometimes when everybody's down on you, everybody's dogging you, that's when you play your best. So maybe now that people like me will stop drinking the Kool-Aid, maybe they'll give us a reason to start drinking it again on Friday. So who knows? I mean, that's the thing about sports. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And it definitely wasn't the season that we wanted, but honestly, what they do in the bowl game too will tell me a lot about where this team's headed for the future. Because think about the last bowl game, Shavers played well, Donovan Jones played well, and we saw pieces for the future really kind of assert themselves early, and it carried over onto the season. So who knows?
And the Iowa game could be, to get to the ReliaQuest Bowl, which would give us a nice, probably a top 25 opponent from the SEC. So it could be, still a lot at stake. And whatever happens, we'll be here to cover it for you. We'll have a preview before the game, and we'll try to get our chat up maybe Black Friday morning. We'll see if we can get that pregame chat going for you guys. So at any rate, if you haven't already, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comment section. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.